Job Guys, what the world isn't watching.
What's happening, everybody? The Job Guys back with you one more time. Nitro, Nick is here. Ryan is here as always. And we are running back, Nick, what we think is one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. And it's probably one that gets slept on a little bit. Maybe people forgot about it, how good and how important this pay-per-view was. And that is Fall Brawl 1996, the War Games, the NWO taking on the team of the Horsemen, and kind of Sting and kind of not Sting and all that. Nick, let's go back to 96 because, you know, we're teenagers at this point. You and I had both kind of maybe not fallen out, but we weren't watching like we were when we were kids.
No.
And this here is what re-jump started everything for us. The NWO, Hogan turning heel, Hall and Nash jumping ship. This whole thing, this whole summer is really what got us back into wrestling and probably why we're still talking today the way we're talking, isn't it?
Ryan, that the era of the summer of 96 until I guess we'll call, you know, the Starrcade, the end of 96, summer to end of 96. Ryan, I think it's as good as a golden era, man. It is so good. It's stuff we've never seen. It's faces we've seen, but not in that manner. It's storylines that are new. We're twisting toward reality television a little bit. The cheesy gimmicks that you had just said that kind of caused people like me and you to not completely jump ship on the industry, but if there was something better to do, I'm not watching Mantar.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so.
And the occupational gimmicks, you know,
yes.
The plumber and all that.
But Ryan, this got me back in, and this is my first pay-per-view. I mean, obviously, we've went back and watched all of them a zillion times. Right after Road Wild is where I came in, watching religiously. I saw some clips at the beginning with Hall. I just thought he was there. I literally saw Hall arrive on Nitro the night he did. I was flipping through the channels, having to catch Wrestling Watch. I just thought Razor Ramon.
Right. Okay, he's over here now. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still the Dungeon of Doom is here. I don't want to watch this.
In my opinion, that sucked.
I was the same way, man. I didn't have cable, and I've told this story before. It was on WCW, was on 9 a.m. on Detroit TV. We had an antenna on top of the roof, so I was able to watch Detroit TV. When I would wake up Saturday morning at 9 a.m., I would watch, and I knew about Hall and Nash coming over. I knew about the third man. I was on vacation in Wisconsin at a hotel the night of Bash at the Beach, and I'm calling the operator like, can we get pay-per-view at the hotel? And we couldn't, you know, so I watched the live pre-show leading into the pay-per-view, and I heard that it was Hogan, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know, I got to watch. And I watched Saturday morning all I could, but again, I didn't have cable, and we had practice on Monday nights and things like that, so I didn't get to watch Nitro until later on. So, you know, anytime I could get any piece of any of this, it was unbelievable. I'm going to school on Tuesday to find out what happened and everything. It was so crazy. And like you said, the things that they did changed everything. Yeah, first of all, Hogan's a bad guy. But then he's hanging out with Diesel and Razor Ramon, and the way he's acting and the things that they were doing, we had never seen before. Breaking down the announce booth, all that stuff. And yeah, maybe it got repetitive.
The truck, Ryan, in the back.
Painting the truck,
like,
beating the guys
vandalism. Up. You know, like I mean, today they've done everything a zillion and a half times, Ryan. So it's not new. It's not
right.
We hadn't seen any of
nothing
this,
like this. And they were constantly adding things. And that's how we start this pay-per-view. The intro to this pay-per-view is the same music from Bash at the Beach. And it's just running through what happened and who joined. And first, here comes Hogan. Well, then here comes DiBiase. Here comes Six. The Giant turns. Hogan wins the belt. All this stuff. And that's the rundown for all of it. But Nick, before we get into the pay-per-view, which we're going to do, and thank you for watching, by the way. If you've never watched one of our Run It Backs, we're going to go through the pay-per-view, not move by move and everything like that. But then at the end, we're going to have the ultimate run back where we go through what was the moment of the night, the match of the night, the line of the night, maybe a funny moment from the night. We're going to go through all those at the very end. But Nick, to tell you how big WCW got in the summer of 1996, let's go back to Fall Brawl 1995. There were 6,600 people at that pay-per-view. The buy rate, 95,000 buys. 95,000. This in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in Horseman Country. 11,300 people were at this pay-per-view. The buy rate, 230, up from 95. So that tells you how many people they sucked in and they didn't have everybody yet because a lot of people still didn't know yet. Like you found out literally right before this. This is the first one you bought.
Yeah, I had to call. I remember my dad. I can see him right now. He's working out in the back room. One of the nights before this, I turn on the Pro, and they're Saturday night, and they're Hogan spray painting the truck. I didn't know. I'm like, God, that guy looks like Hogan, and I'm like, it's Hogan, and I'm like, he's a bad guy? So I got on the phone,
beard, wearing all black.
I got on the phone immediately, called one of my buddies, like, you got to get over here, man. Right there, Ryan, it tells you, like, I don't know the story. I don't know anything that's going on. Hogan is a bad guy. That's
enough right there.
Right there. I'm sold. I gotta, like, why? After all this, I took my vitamins. I said my prayers. My dad's doing training right behind me, man. Like, it's God. What's going on?
We're working out right now, brother.
Yeah, come on, brother. Week to week, I could not wait to watch week to week. Like, it wasn't like, well, you can just record. No, I can't record. No, I have to go home. Like, I literally left people's houses during this era, or went home early from whatever we were doing, the show, or I got to go, man. Nitro's on. Are you going to put it on? No. Well, then sorry, dude. I'm out. Like, I got to go. We've got to go.
Let's get into it, though. They start this sucker out, as we said. So much has happened from Bash of the Beach and going back to Memorial Day till now. It seemed like every week something was happening. And that's how they start the show. And then they recap. They get to the desk and they recap what just happened the previous Monday. Sting has turned.
He's been bought off by DiBiase.
They show Sting get out of the limo and then beat up Luger in the rain, which also made it even cooler because they're outside. Mother Nature, hey, whatever, it's raining. Even beyond that, just the whole toying with reality that they did back then. One of the first times that I remember, wait, is this really real? Did Vince send these guys down there? Yeah, it's wrestling, whatever, but there was always that little thing. So Saturday night, they smash up Luger's car and all that, and that's how we get in to the pay-per-view going in. So then they jump into the first match, a different DDP than we found a few months later, but it's DDP against Chavo Guerrero Jr. Chavo, I think, making his first big-time pay-per-view appearance. DDP, they had been pushing. If you remember, he won the Battle Bowl. He got the ring at Slamboree earlier that year. He had been on every pay-per-view, but he still hadn't taken off quite yet, Nick.
No, and there was a story here. He is feuding with the Guerreros, the whole Battle Bowl ring. He had been feuding. I think Eddie actually has the ring at this point. Chavo, the match is, I thought, really good for these two. The problem is, this is going to happen with a lot of WCW matches. Nobody cared about Chavo Guerrero, man.
Right.
Like, it's like, who is this guy? Even though there were so many guys that, I mean, this is going to sound really familiar today, so many guys that can wrestle that we just don't care about because all they can do is wrestle. Like, there
was no big story with Chavo. Yeah, they didn't do that for another 3 years with I Love My Uncle Eddie and all that kind of stuff.
No, he was just a guy. His only claim to fame was he's a Guerrero. But the match is really good. DDP finishes it with, I was just going to say, Ryan, they missed a few things on DDP. He is, and they do say this from time to time, your original out-of-nowhere finisher.
Yep.
The diamond cutter. They just didn't market it.
Yep.
DDP is your original people's champion. He comes in through the crowd calling himself that. This is just the WCW just made you.
Well, they even got the year wrong on their Starcades. Like the Hogan Piper Starcade says Starcade 97 on it. And it's 96. The Sting one says 98. It's like,
Hogan's still
how does that happen?
Hogan's still in the red and yellow, I think, on the 96 Road Wild.
Yes, he is. Hog Wild. He is in red and yellow.
Just such. It really makes you think of how much more this company could have done if it had the backstage production that the WWE has.
We'll get into that a little bit more as we go on, but I think you meant and leadership.
Ted DiBiase arrived with financial backing and leadership.
So, yeah, the Diamond Cutter's over at this point, though. When he hits it, the place goes
and
crazy.
They sell it. You don't kick out of that thing.
Oh, no, you don't kick out of it. And the thing I like about this, two things about the commentary. First of all, Shivani said our sport 4 times in like 30 seconds during this, his classic, in our sport. I'm telling you, he said it 4 times in maybe 10 seconds. It was pretty crazy. But that said, the commentary here, the good thing about the first few matches, maybe just being matches and not so much storyline driven, was old school commentary like you used to get on Saturday morning. When you have guy fighting a jobber, well, you're spending time talking about the main event. You're talking about Hogan. You're talking about the NWO. What's going to happen tonight? Who's going to be our 4th guy? Because we lost Sting. What are we going to do? They're continually selling the main angle and making it bigger and making it seem bigger. That is a lost art in today's commentary world. So we go backstage. Harlem Heat is on a CompuServe chat during the... I wasn't even on the internet for like another year and a half. So, yeah, that was a thing that used to happen back then.
We didn't get kicked out of chat rooms yet, man.
Not quite yet. No, not quite yet. That was further down the road. And then we get into what seems like nothing now, but this was so huge. They do an entire package, like a Saturday morning type thing, on what they call the Attack on WCW. What we talked about in the intro, they go into more detail here. It's Mean Gene Okerlund doing an old school news story package that you would see like on CNN or something. And this is like the first real detailed news package, and it's like 5 minutes long, that I ever remember seeing that was this detailed. And it goes over Paul coming out, bringing out Nash. Here comes Hogan. This, all the way down the line. And telling you, so if you were Nick Hortz, first time you ever watching this pay-per-view, you missed the original Nitros from 3 months ago. Yeah. This told you every single thing. It was like watching now the movie trailers that they do in WWE, only like more old school. Yeah, this to me, dude, this is as good as anything on the show.
This might be, yes, Ryan, and he does it like you said. You're watching 60 minutes.
Yeah,
like it's not a joke. This is a real he's the Attack as we've come to know it.
Yeah,
and then even Gene when he comes, he's like this. Who would the outsider's third man be? This incredible footage tells the shocking story.
Yes.
Hogan was, we were boys. We all loved. Even Gene was a little Hulkster.
You've got to be kidding me.
If you have not seen this package, I would highly recommend, even if you don't want, just Google this pack. You'll have to watch the pay-per-view after you do. I mean, as soon as you see it, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it'd probably be like somebody watching a WrestleMania 3 match now and like, really? That's it? Steamboat Savage? That's okay. You got to remember, for the time, this was pretty incredible. So detailed, man. I thought it was great. And it has pretty much every line I've ever heard from any of you guys for the past 30 years. It has in this package.
I'll walk the path with the enforcer.
So, pretty incredible. So then we go to our... By DiBiase.
By DiBiase.
And then Hogan.
Desecrated the prestigious WCW World Title belt.
Desecrated the prestigious WCW championship.
I don't know how many times one of our buddies has made us listen to that, dude.
Oh my gosh, literally constantly.
EG out there, man. He's
Yeah.
made us listen to that so many times.
Then we got a submission match. This is Scott Norton against the Ice Train. Two of the all-time greats right here.
Main event anywhere in the country.
Absolutely.
Incredible. This does have a story to it. They were Fire and Ice, the tag team. They split up. Now, they are in a submission match.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I think of Scott Norton and the Ice Train, which I never do, but when I do, I immediately think submission holds.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott Norton's a regular Bret Hart out there, and he not, this is what I'm thinking about submission holds, not two tanks. Who decided this was going to be a submission match?
I thought the same as you, Ryan. The only thing I was thinking is, in giving them credit, and I may be giving them too much, WCW did try to change the matches on the, not but not every match is the same 27 acais with, the matches are different. Like, they try to, what do we do? Okay, let's have a submission match. No one cared about these.
No, that was nobody
man.
cared. I wouldn't say it was awful. It was fine for what it was, but nobody.
It's not good.
It's Ice Train and friggin' Scott Norton.
Tell you,
I mean, who cares?
And again, another miss by WCW. If I'm not mistaken, Scott Norton isn't he a Japanese champion at some point while he's in the
later on? Yeah, IWGP champ.
Crap either, man. They missed some big thing. Could you imagine that today if someone had the just to maybe market him a little bit more than that?
Problem is, I don't know that you could.
You don't think
I
so?
don't know
Just
because
even
he doesn't
mention
have the charisma.
No,
they
I don't
did
mean,
one time. I remember.
Just give him some props or something. But I know, again, I'm not a Norton guy. But
he's the poster child for Big in Japan.
Big in Japan. Didn't he main event the Tokyo Dome versus Ric Flair?
Yeah, I mean, he won the IWGP championship. What I totally forgot, and then because I haven't watched his pay-per-view forever, let alone this match, Ice Train's music, dude. I totally forgot about Ice Train's music. It sounds like the old Too Cold Scorpio music, except for then in the background, they just put a high-pitched choo-choo in the background, and it keeps going. Oh,
WCW has some of the worst music of all time.
I had to go look that up on YouTube and listen to it a few times. I thought that was great. All right, now, speaking of other championships, we have the Mexican Championship, which is really the AAA Championship. Why they didn't say AAA, I have no idea. But it's Conan taking on Juventud Guerrera. Conan has just turned from wearing, like the other guys who wear
like
flashy
suit. Yeah,
he had flashy things and all this on. He is now the gangster Conan who has joined the Dungeon of Doom. So he's with Jimmy Hart. He's fighting Juventud, and Conan just ragdolls Hoovy this entire match.
My favorite part's still the entrance of Hoovy, because as he's coming out, man, he's doing his thing, and all of a sudden he backs over the stairs and
rips right into the steps backwards.
It's great. It doesn't work for me. I've never been a Conan guy. The match is actually pretty good though. Had a lot of big moves. Conan, man, powerbomb drop with a razor's edge off the top ropes for the win. It's a pretty sick finish.
And that was like the 8th nuclear bomb he hit him with in this match. I mean, I didn't know if I was watching, Lucha or watching Wednesday. It was nonstop, just murdering and kicking out, Nick, to the point where the announcers are like, how many things is he going to kick out of? They're literally saying that.
Yeah, again, these are not my guys. You know me, I wasn't very big on the cruiser division back then.
Unfortunately, they lose the crowd. The crowd is super into this because from the get-go, Conan lifts him up and throws him over the top rope. And they get the crowd right away, but then they kick out of everything. Hoovy hits a 450 splash and he kicks out. Then he does some spinning 360 thing from the top rope, and he kicks out.
Yeah.
And then they lost the crowd at that point because they're like, dude, what else is going to happen? Yeah, it definitely reminded me of something we would see today, which is not great.
No,
but yeah, it is actually, it's better than I remember it.
It worked for me a little bit back then because it's not every match, if that makes sense. Like,
exactly.
Again, WCW's tearing their card. The matches are different. Like, it's not. So, I mean, as long as I don't see 2, 3, 4 of these matches on the card, I'm okay.
Yep. No question. And now, unfortunately, it is every match. That's the problem. Here's one hard-hitting match. Chris Jericho, his very first WCW pay-per-view big-time appearance here, taking on Chris Benoit, who's a member of the Horsemen at this point. Jericho doesn't even have his fake Pearl Jam even flow music yet.
They both freaking, like some live rounds, man. Like, they really do lay into each other.
Yep.
Again, Benoit wins with a reverse backdrop off the top rope. I think it's a good match. Benoit fights Jericho a few times in WCW, and I think all their matches are pretty good. Yeah, that's all. I really don't have a ton to say about this one, Ryan, because people got to remember, this is not Chris Jericho, even Ralphus Chris Jericho.
No, he just got there.
Right. So I don't know who he is, and he seems kind of meh to me at this point, And
Benoit always, even 10 years later, was just moves. I mean, he had no charisma whatsoever.
His interviews are awful. I'm sorry what people say. He just repeats the same thing twice. He's worse than Macho with that, and Macho is cool. It's like, okay, dude, like, he just repeats the same thing.
Dusty it's amazing they kept putting him on commentary. He's bad. And there's constantly, like, he cannot spit out a thought. And they just stop him and cut him off and make fun of him. They're like, yeah, you don't know what you're saying, do you?
He got a bicycle. He got a bicycle.
Okay, now we have to say, to me, this is the disappointment of the night. To me, I loved Ray back then. Thought he was great. He's so little. We've talked about it in the past. He does moves that you still see today, but he does them better than the guys are doing them now. Such precision with all his stuff. I just love the guy. I thought he was awesome.
He is awesome.
But he's fighting Super Callow, who again is making his very first pay-per-view appearance. He's a guy from AAA. They're bringing up. He should be able to work with Ray.
Big in Mexico.
Well, guess what? Nobody here has any idea who the heck this guy is.
Who in the blue hell are you?
Nobody. Not one person. At the very beginning, when they ring the bell, you can hear a guy go, boring. Before they even started. Man. And then by the... Dude, now, this match, it was a well-worked match, but people want... When they see Ray, they want to see Ray fly all over the place. And he just gets dealt on this entire match.
This is
he
one
has
of his
no
worst
chance
matches.
to fly around.
And it's terrible because, Ryan, go back a pay-per-view. He puts on, is it with Malenko or the Dragon at the previous pay-per-view? I can't. I'm sorry, the Hog Wild, the one where the ring is elevated.
Yep.
Oh my God, it is an awesome match. And Rey
pretty
Mysterio,
much every match he ever had was awesome.
Ryan, he might. I don't know. He might be the best in-ring performer in the world at this point in time as far as pro wrestling goes.
Probably.
I mean, as being able to hit moves and do different things, especially for a man, his size, I mean, gives him a little advantage. But I was with you. I'm like, who the heck is this Super Callow? These are the guys that made me hate the Cruiser division, man, because it's the same as today. You can't just throw a guy from Japan or Mexico in my face and I'm supposed to care because you tell me they were good over there. You tell me they've done that. I don't know who this is, man.
Who are you?
And it's same as you can't even bring a guy from NXT and do this to me. I don't know who they are.
Who are you?
Who are you?
No, you cannot. That's a great point to bring in NXT because they do that. All of a sudden, here's 10 years ago, here's Bailey. Who? I don't know who this is. When Ray comes out, the place biggest pop of the night.
He's
when Ray comes out,
he's over.
30 years ago. We said this when they had a pay-per-view. I think it was Starrcade 95. It was New Japan against WCW. You're like, I don't know who these people are.
That's not Sting, that's Stink.
And I don't care.
I don't.
Yet they're trying to do that again. And I'm sure it's great for the people that do know, but a lot of people don't. And it was a big problem here.
I agree.
Harlem Heat, Nasty Boys, Tag Team Championship of the World. Nasty Boys are bad guys, or excuse me,
faces.
Harlem Heat are bad guys at this point. There was Sherry still. This was like the one match that, even though I like both teams, I'm just kind of like, and I kind of quit paying attention as I was rewatching this back.
I did. I liked it. Harlem Heat is one of my favorite tag teams of all time, man. They're going to definitely sit up there. I think they're one of the best of the 90s, maybe trailing the Outsiders. And we all know Booker T is well capable of putting on a 5-star match. Stevie Ray, not so much. But
Stevie Ray and Nas, main event anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the country. They saved. I think it kind of helped. This match wasn't a tornado rule match, but it was kind of out of control.
Yeah, they were all.
The guys are all over the place. I think that kind of helped sell it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Harlem Heat. I mean the match. It's okay. It's not a terrible match or anything. I think the Nasties are past their prime. But remember this: when people look at '96 and say, "Yeah, they're past their prime," the tag teams. They may be past their prime. I bet you they're still a top 10 tag team in the world because the 90s are so bad.
At that point,
It's so, I mean, you're not going to tell me two from the Dungeon of Doom or the Beverly Brothers or the Heavenly Bodies or whoever the heck else is out there is going to be right. I mean, the Nasties, they're still up there as guys.
They're over here, too. The crowd is hot for them. They really are.
And they were still interesting when the whole NWO thing came with them. Are they in? Are they out?
Yep.
When that comes down the road. But
just like a week or two after this.
Harlem Heat wins. Sherry smashes, I think, Knobs over the head with a cane.
Yep.
And Booker T makes the pin.
All right, man. Now we've hit the meat and potatoes of the show, I guess you could say here. The Giant, former champ, now in the NWO, his first order of business is taking on the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Savage comes out. For some reason, he kind of doesn't sell that this is war and everything. He's handing out Slim Jims as he comes to the ring, but he gets in there. Somehow Nick Patrick is the ref again. I don't know. How does he keep becoming the ref? Is there nobody else they can put in charge here? The Giant comes out to the Dungeon of Doom music, and then they stop it, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. He's in the NWO now. We better play the other music. Anyway, man, long story short match, not too long. Macho slams the Giant. The place goes nuts. And then here comes Hulk. And they go even more bonkers. When he comes out, Savage chases Hogan to the back, but they're waiting in the back as the Outsiders. They smoke him with a chair, throw him back in the ring. Giant gets the pin immediately. Your thoughts on this? It was short and sweet, but the point got across.
Savage is over. Dude, he's awesome. He is my second favorite of all time, man. I freaking love Macho Man. And I love the matches. It's not bad. It's a good match for what Hogan hits out. I think it's Heenan who says Hulk Hogan is out. Hulk Hogan's on the floor. It felt different, Ryan. We had seen Hogan. It's not Hulk Hogan though. Come get me, brother. And they set him up, and Savage is great. I love when he leaves the ring. And, of course, Nick Patrick checking on the Giant's eye for like this.
The whole time. Yeah, didn't see any of it.
It's just great. Like you said, they smoke him with a chair. Nash does after he ducks a Hulk clothesline. And they rough him up, throw him back in. He's there to take out the Macho Man. And, again, going into this, you thought the faces, I swear to God, Ryan, every time they fight, you think the faces are going to win. The heels can't keep winning. Like, we've never seen this before. Heels don't win like this. They don't always keep Savage is out. He beat him. and the NWO rides again. They are still undefeated at this point. Hogan had won the belt at the last pay-per-view. Nash and Hall beat Sting and Luger at the last pay-per-view. I think it's an awesome match. It's like you said, it's not long, but it does what needed to be done.
And the point being, the very next pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc, Hogan is fighting Macho Man. So they are taking this guy out. They're trying to destroy this guy before he has to fight Hogan, which we will see more of later in the show. But, I watching this and thinking back in 96 and how we say Triple H is the new Kevin Sullivan, booking heat all the time. The bad guys always win. The bad guys always win. Very similar to SummerSlam a couple weeks ago. Not all the bad guys are going to win. They're not going to have a turn in every match. They're not going to have interference in every match. No, they did, because they were setting up the story, and that was what was best for the story. Make these guys look invincible until they aren't. And that's what that's eventually what they did here. So that then brings us to the main event. It's the War Games. They go to the back, and the Horsemen have an interview. As we said, Sting had just turned on Monday, joined supposedly the NWO. They're in the back, they're talking. Sting interrupts the interview and says, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me." Luger says to him, "I look you right in your eyes. I know it was you." Now, I'm not going to dog all of this very much, but I love the guy now. But I was never a Luger fan. I always thought he was dorky. I always thought there was something goofy about this guy. He couldn't work a lick, and he sounded like he was reading Encyclopedia Britannica when he was trying to cut an interview with you. All these supercalifragilistic expialidocious, like, to say you're going to beat him up. It was always something dorky about this guy.
And your t-shirts are too tight too.
This is your best friend. Now, I know you didn't have a long look at him, but he was dealing on you for 5 minutes, and you're like, "I looked you right in the eye. I know it was you." Do you? If you came and beat me up, I'd probably know it was you.
Yeah, you might. I don't.
It makes Luger look so stupid.
I know, but
it works.
They had to try. They were trying to sell it to make sure the fans knew.
Right.
And hey, I am opposite. I do like Luger. He's not like my top 10, but I love the guy. I think he's great. And you know what, people out there, he is in some of the biggest moments in the history of wrestling.
No question. Okay, so now the War Games. We don't know who the fourth man for either team is, because it's supposed to be Sting with the Horsemen, but that's apparently not happening. And we don't know if the fourth man is Bogus Sting.
Bogus Sting!
So we come out. Dude, Michael Buffer is there. It always seems bigger when Michael Buffer is there. It does it not, man. It just makes it feel. Those that don't know, it's hard to explain. Now we got his stupid brother screaming on UFC all the time, but Michael Buffer, man, he was the Mike Tyson guy.
Classic.
He was the Holyfield guy. When you saw him, you're like, oh, man, this is the main event right here. Yep. So he was out there. Nick Patrick is again the referee. Is he the only one working today?
Randy Anderson's out there, too.
Randy Anderson, did he get fired already? What happened? Where's
the match at
Pee-wee
the
at?
end?
Where's Pee-wee, man? Where's everybody? Why is Nick Patrick the only guy refereeing? Especially when we know he's on the take. So Hall and Arn started out. Place goes nuts when Arn starts punching Hall right away. The place just goes nuts.
So
Dusty
does the announce
says, quote, "I can't believe I'm rooting for Double A, but go on with it, baby."
It's awesome. They're all united, and the fans are all behind. You don't have the full-fledged WWE NWOites that you're going to get in a couple months.
Right.
It's going to split this audience.
And remember, this is Horseman country, too.
It certainly is. And they were going nuts, Ryan. It was awesome.
From the opening bell. I will say this, with the Dusty thing, just kind of once again shows you how stupid it is that in both companies now, Arn is with Cody Rhodes. What? I can't believe I'm cheering for Double A. Kind of weird. Anyway, as always, NWO, the bad guys always win the coin flip so they can get the man advantage. That's the way War Games works. So out comes Nash, then comes Luger. Third guy, as we know.
Coin toss.
Yep. We don't know who the fourth guy is for either team.
And Luger jumps the gun. That was so cool.
Yeah, he comes
Luger, and they're like, he's not up early. This is war. And they like, get in there, man. Luger comes out early. Everything they did was perfect, right? It was awesome. The way the two that start, Anderson getting in there, grabs the cage and threatens to like rake your face back and forth. Hall's in there, DiBiase's outside with the spray paint. The end up and they kind of build it up. Well, we got word that the coin toss is being taken place in the back right now.
Yeah, they talk about it before it happens.
And then you're like, okay, and they're like, the NWO, we just got word. Hold on. The NWO has won the coin toss. And you're like...
And then they're all... Oh, no.
I know. And here comes Nash. Luger comes in early. And then they start debating. Is it going to be Hogan? Or are they going to give their... And Heenan goes, no way. It's going to be Hogan. He's going to save the surprise for the end,
Yep.
And sure enough, here comes the Hulk. And they set it on 3-on-2.
And they start
I'll
dealing...
Give them this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll give them this. This might be the Nature Boys' finest moment, in my opinion. The place goes nuts. Ric Flair gets in, looks at Hogan, kind of gives him a, I don't know what he does, kind of move where he,
throws the hips at him.
And then all of a sudden, Hogan starts dealing on him, and what does the dirtiest player in the game have? A foreign object. After that first, from Nash to the end, everybody's like on the edge of their seat. Like, what is going on here, man? And just waiting to see who the next guy out is. How's this going to end? It is so good, Ryan.
The announcers, again, do a great job in building how important this is, because there were stakes on the line here for whoever won. If the NWO won, they had a list of demands that they had to have met. Hey, if we win, we get all this stuff, you know. And we don't have to have dark arena matches anymore. We get to fight whenever we want on Nitro. So things mattered, and they sold it. They sold every move like it mattered. So they're all in there. You mentioned Flair. He starts cleaning house so much to that he starts strutting around.
Oh, and the place is popping, man. They're freaking loving it.
So then NWO's fourth guy comes out, and it's Sting.
It's Sting. The announcers are sure of it.
Everybody's like, oh, gosh, it's Sting. Now, the one, again, I praised their production earlier, but there were some mistakes that maybe they didn't think. They got a little too close on his head when he was walking down the aisle. Cobra being bogus Sting.
The bogus Sting.
They got a little too close to his head where you could see in his face that it wasn't him. And the one good thing that could have worked here, at least for the audience at home, if you stay wide like you did the other night, and the cage, with the cage, that you then won't see that it's really not Sting. And they had a slightly different body type.
He's a little stockier.
Yeah, he's a little stockier.
Bogus is.
There's a bogus Sting.
But then the crowd does figure out that it's not him.
We want
and they
Sting.
start chanting, we want Sting, we want Sting. He's doing his fake stinger splashes and all this. And then the real Sting comes out. And then they know immediately, oh, that's Sting. That's Sting. For the last 5 minutes, they didn't know.
We weren't sure until we saw the elevation on those stinger splashes.
No question, the elevation of those stinger splashes.
That's Sting.
There's no question about
No question now, man. You know him by the splash, man. Until he did the splash, we were iffy, but
and it doesn't take too long, Nick. Sting gets in there. He just cleans everybody out.
Takes
and
him to the
then he
woodshed.
looks at Luger and says, is that good enough for you right there? Gives him the finger as I hit my microphone, and he leaves. And then from that point on, NWO just deals on him.
Well, that's 4-on-3 now.
And that's it. And that the match is over. But is it the greatest worked match ever? No. Not at all. But the story and what they did and just the fake Sting thing, like, it worked. It worked. And obviously this sets up the greatest character they
And
probably ever built with the Crow Sting.
And even when Luger passes out in the Scorpion by Bogus Sting, even him, I know it's cheesy, even him crawling back on the Stinger, you know, and then it gets even more hype because the NWO is going to whip on him, and who's not done fighting? The Horsemen are still in it. They start fighting and jabbing, and then, you know, and the announcers are selling like the Horsemen are fighting their lives out, but it's for WCW.
Yes.
This isn't a Horseman thing.
No,
this
good guys, bad
thing.
guys, people that don't like each other all together.
This is for WCW, man. And then out of nowhere, Ryan, the Macho Man.
Here comes Mach. Yeah.
He's back. Grabs Hogan, takes Hogan in the ring, throws him in the ring, and then Hogan, I love the begging of the Hulk. He's begging him off, falls back through the rings to the other side, and then you hear Bobby going, Randy, no, you know, and it's a setup. Here comes the Giant.
Yep, from behind.
And they just destroy the Macho Man. And then out of nowhere,
randomly, here comes Liz.
Liz, who had previously, like 6 months ago, with Flair,
like 1 month ago.
It worked. I mean, she, you know, it's another. She's still in love with the Macho Man, you know, and she lays on him, and Hogan spits on him. Oh man, it's Giants. They're spray painting them.
They spray paint her. She's laying on top of Macho to keep them from beating him up, and they spray paint her. NWO, and then Hogan spits on her. Giant gets into the corner like he does and tries to yell at the camera like WCW guys used to do all the time. And for like the 15th time in 2 weeks since joining the NWO, Hogan just cuts him off, doesn't let him talk.
Nope.
And they do the fee fight.
Hogan,
what did they do?
No, whether you like it or you don't. It's the best. And they didn't have it choreographed.
Not at all.
So it doesn't flow well.
Not at all.
That's so bad. And then they kind of go to like the post show.
Yeah.
Where you usually go, you know, the announce team, and they're sitting up there going,
they wrap up the night.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? And then it's right. It's so cool. Bobby looks back, and you just see Heenan drop his headset and run
and take off.
They're not done. Here, the NWO comes to take over the announce table again.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen it now a couple times at this point, but it was still so cool. And I can't explain exactly why, because it wasn't original by this point. And they just come in and trash the set, flip stuff over, kick those guys out of there. And like, you know what? We're going to end the show the way we want to end the show. And it made a difference, too, because they weren't ringside. Like, the old WCW announce team was facing the wall. They weren't even facing the ring, so the guys would watch the monitors.
Yeah.
And they were on their own, man. They were way over here. And
it looked like it wasn't planned.
No, it was like you're taking over another country. Yeah. Like you had to go over there to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it was just cool. And they had an NWO country sign.
Yeah.
And the way the Carnage was, we've seen Carnage before. We saw King Kong Bundy squash Hogan, you know, and leave him laying before WrestleMania 2 and all this stuff. But we'd never seen Carnage like this, where they're just breaking everything and taking over everything. You know, people want to talk about the Nexus and what they did the one night. Like, NWO was doing this in 96. You know, they weren't snapping the ropes and stuff, but everything else, you know, it was just, I don't know, man. It was awesome. It was just incredible. And you never got sick of it for some reason. I don't know why that was. You know, it wasn't for at least another year and a half before you're like, all right, I'm kind of over this.
I think for the NWO fans, though, right, they were so cool. We wanted to see them do that and be the jerks and do all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And for the WCW, because there were still a lot of WCW core fans, the Southern fans, the Georgia wrestling fans, the Tampa fans, the big backbone of the NWA and WCW, they hated these guys.
Yes.
Like they
were the enemy.
And when people say like, yeah, they were, you don't, like, they literally were throwing stuff at them. Like, I mean, they were
throwing stuff again here.
Again, They had to alter certain events, especially the outside ones at like Road Wild. A year later,
throwing batteries at him.
Yeah, when Hogan wins the belt, there was supposed to be an in-ring celebration. They can't do it because they're getting pelted with rocks and battery. I'm not condoning any of that. I'm just telling people really took this stuff like it meant something to people.
It's still real to me, damn it!
And that's
go back to Black Saturday. When Vince took over their show in 1984, they were pissed. They didn't want that crap. They want their Southern wrestling.
The fans down there, they love their people. They love their 40-minute Ric Flair matches and their Horseman promos and the Stinger. It really set up a great atmosphere, Ryan. An awesome atmosphere that I don't think will ever be duplicated again, man.
They rode that wave, man, for another year and a half.
They did.
At least,
awesome.
if not 2 years.
Awesome.
All right, Nick.
Yes.
Let's run this whole sucker down. It is time for the ultimate run back. We will begin with the best line of the night. There could be numerous ones. We mentioned the attack thing that had like all of our favorite lines ever.
I'll walk your path with the enforcer.
I didn't take that because that wasn't part of the show, so I didn't do that.
Yep.
Ryan, you mentioned it. In the history of wrestling, there is a face announcer and a heel announcer. The heel announcer sells the heels. The face calls the match and sells the faces. I've never seen them all united. For the WCW fans, there is something to be said. I bet you there are people out there that are going to say Dusty Rhodes versus the Four Horsemen is a top 10 feud of all time, Ryan.
Sure.
That is why let's go. Let's go. I can't believe I'm rooting for Arn Anderson, but go on with it, baby. Go on with it. And it's not a line of the night, Ryan. It's paragraph. Heenan, rip his face. Rip his face. Dusty right back. Deal on him. And then Heenan, oh yeah, we know where you're going. Dusty, go ahead and kick him right there. I never thought I'd be cheering for anybody along with Dusty and you, Bobby.
Yep. And they sound like fans sitting in section 102.
It's not about getting the guy over. It's not about pushing the heel. Our company is under attack. This line to me is crucial as when they did the jumping out back several weeks or months earlier. Sting and Ric Flair get into the same ambulance and go to the hospital together. You had never seen that. That line to me, or the paragraph of all them going in, it is like you can feel it.
Sums it all up.
This is war.
Yeah.
War games.
And people that didn't know, like we said, there was good guys and bad guys. If you remember when they were attacking them in the back, it was the Dungeon of Doom manager, bad guy, Jimmy Hart, that came out. Guys, stop the match. You got to get back here. Like it was every faction all together against these guys.
Yep.
Yeah, no question. I just put a simple one for us anyway. It also makes sense, but it was one of our lines. There's no question about the elevation of those stinger slashes. After spending the last 10 minutes, the last entire show, Sting's turned. Sting's a bad guy. Oh, there he is. He's with them. Then all of a sudden, it just clicks. Nope, that's him there.
If we just would have seen the Sting, he should have just done a stinger splash in the back, and we would have been like, oh, yeah, now we know.
Oh, no, that's him. I don't need to see your face. I just needed to see the elevation.
No question the elevation of those stinger splashes.
How about let's do a funny moment. The funniest moment of the night, you may have already said it. Was it Holy falling down?
No. Well, it's hard because I do love that. The Giant trying to speak after the pay-per-view is going
constant.
off the air. He comes and they take the announce booth, and finally he's going to get a chance to speak without Hogan interrupting him, and he puts on a headset, and the thing just falls off. He's like, this is brought to you for the Ric Flair
Yeah. Ric Flair, and he meant to say retirement fund, and his mouth keeps going. Fund. Headset's on the ground.
Headset falls off.
I just have the guys constantly ripping on Dusty throughout the night for not being able to get a thought out.
I want to talk about this fat fat lady sitting up against the wall.
He just can't get a thought out of his head. So they're just ripping on him like it's nothing, you know. I'll tell you, this sounds bad, but he might be the worst announcer in sports history, not just wrestling. I mean, like NBA, NCAA, NFL. This guy cannot talk.
And a full-blooded American gorilla, brother.
It's unbelievable for a guy that could cut a promo.
That can talk you into the building. That is the talker.
It's kind of interesting.
Hey, some people don't work. I think Piper stinks out there, too.
As an announcer?
As an announcer.
Better than Dusty, I'll tell you.
Yeah, the bar's not, but some guys just, it's not there.
Not,
you know?
Yeah.
They're better.
It's different.
Piper is gold in that ring on the mic, but
it's a different world.
Yeah.
All right.
Savage.
How about, what is the most rewatchable scene of the night for you?
What did I put on here? The special attack report, Ryan. I can go watch that right now.
Right.
If you want to have me watch that, that build, that package. It's such awesome work.
I got that on there. I figured you were going to say that, especially since we pretty much still have it. I haven't watched it in probably 10 to 15 years, and I had it memorized still. You know, I still knew every single line from the whole thing. Mine is just the end. What we talked about, taking over the spray painting Liz, taking over the announce booth, that whole thing, just because it was so unusual for the time. It was incredible. Like, very cool. Really did. You're like, you know, maybe these guys are taking over this place. This could be real. It eventually did get old, but man, back then it was still special. And it was awesome. I could watch that. NWO dealing on people and people throwing their drinks in the ring. I could watch that any day, all the time. Okay, what has aged the best from this show, Nick, here 28 years later?
I think the story that's being told through the War Games match.
Yeah.
I mean, it is that match. I mean, I'm sorry, folks, if you want a 5-star, it's not. If you want, again, a story.
It's a 5-star story, though.
It's freaking awesome. Though I think that match has just aged. It's gold.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
It's the best War Games match of all time.
Yeah, some old dudes will probably say 86 or something, but yeah, I agree with you. I think this one's the best. I have
who's in that match.
What's aged the best is the finish of that match. Sting coming in, the real Sting, dealing on everybody and saying, awesome. See, you didn't believe me? Eat it. And then that sets up a guy doesn't talk for 14 months and he's the number one guy in the business. What has aged the worst? I'll go first. I've got nothing has aged the worst. Like, the only thing that maybe has aged the worst is your random matches. But they worked, though. They did work. You know, just a Hoovy against a Conan match or a Super Callow against Ray.
I just said the unknown cruiserweights. 30 years later or whatever, I don't care about Super Callow. I'm not going to watch a special on Super Callow. I don't care if he's on Dark Side of the Ring. I don't care. You know, I just, certain that he's got psychosis. And again, these guys, I'm not saying they can't work. I just don't care. I think that division was very top heavy. The guys could work, but there were just so many. Yeah,
when guys you don't know are just equivalent to, you know, Barry Horowitz.
Yeah.
No, and that has aged the worst. But back then, that's the way pay-per-views work. Yeah. You had a few that had a meaning, had a storyline, and then the rest were just filler.
Right. I get why they did it. I had no tie to them. It was hard to pick an aged worse on this pay-per-view. It really was.
Obviously, best match of the night, the last match. Anything else that needs to be said about that? I have nothing else.
We've covered it. No, man.
Just the story. You know, I mean, if you're looking looking for Bulldog Brett, that is not it here. But it's also a War Games match. You're supposed to be dealing on people. So worst match to me, again, it wasn't a bad match, but Super Callow, just because
I said
isn't what we were looking for.
I wanted to see Rey Mysterio fly. I did not remember that match being so bad. Like, I was shocked when I watched it.
What is your hot take of the evening? Sizzling take.
It's the greatest War Games ever, Ryan. And I think this is not only the greatest War Games ever. outside of standard matches, tag team, singles, right? Your basic matches. This is the great to me. This is WCW's 1992 Royal Rumble for the WWE. That Royal Rumble is the greatest non-standard match, one-on-one, some sort of special gimmicky match. I think this is their greatest match in WCW history of gimmicky matches.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. I kind of have similar, but I didn't think of it quite in that regard. You might be right. Like, I was here, again, I think this era is forgotten in a certain way. People don't forget, when the NWO started, it was amazing and it jump-started the Attitude Era and all this. So people don't forget about that, but they forget about the specifics. And you hear a lot of people say their favorite time ever was WWF summer of 1997. You know, when they're going to Canada and Bret's a good guy in Canada. And that stuff was good and everything. It was great. I don't think people realize it was a very short period of time. And then after he fights The Undertaker and wins the belt, well, then he's fighting the Patriot. Nobody cares anymore. Like, I think people forget about that. I think the summer of 96, WCW is as good as the business has ever been. And I think their pay-per-view run, I think like 5 of them, from the Great American Bash until Halloween Havoc, and then World War III kind of sucks, and then Starrcade's good. But that 5 pay-per-views in a row is as good as any run that any company has ever had in the history of wrestling. Some people think the Great American Bash is WCW's best pay-per-view ever. And they weren't, the NWO wasn't even born yet. Then the NWO got born. Then Hogan won the belt. Then the one we're talking about now. Then Halloween Havoc after that. Nobody has had it. This is so much better than the summer of 97. As good as that was, it's great. And when people talk about the NWO, unfortunately, they just talk about the downfall and how it kind of fell off, and the finger poke, and the screw up with Sting at Starrcade and all that. They don't talk about how great 96 was. This is all the NWO, the cruiserweights, the changing of the business, all that stuff, dude. This is as good as it could get. This is awesome.
It's irritating when they say Attitude Era. It should be called the NWO/Attitude Era because they're the ones who started it. I'm sorry that 96 is better than anything you will see in either company the next few years.
Moment of the night. What do you got?
The moment of the night. Sting coming out.
Sting,
the real Sting.
Yep.
That good enough for you, brother?
Yep. That's the moment of the night. That's the moment of the night. And then
I'm going to
piggyback
into the
stratosphere.
And I'm going to piggyback. Sting wins the night for me.
Oh, I didn't even think about who won the night? Sting.
Yeah,
well, because especially what happens in the next 14 months.
This is the last time you see this Sting.
Yep. And then finally, the legacy. Real quick here. What's the legacy of this pay-per-view?
It's the best it ever was, man.
This is so f***ing good.
It's next to the Mega Powers for me, Ryan. Like the NWO, the only reason this is not better than the Mega Powers is because it doesn't end.
Yeah, I can see that.
The NWO, this is like the legacy. This is the greatest era of wrestling in the 90s for sure.
Yeah.
To me, it's the second greatest era in the history of the sport.
To me, the peak is better than the Mega Powers, but you're right. It crashed at the end. So
I agree. The peak is better, but the Mega Powers finishes.
Yeah. I would say the legacy here is it's the start of maybe the greatest character build of all time, and definitely the WCW's greatest character build ever with Sting. I mean, it's
thanks, Scott Hall.
Amazing. Yeah, no doubt. The guy who came up with the gimmick. Hey, guys, we appreciate you, as always, for checking this out. Please let us know what you think in the comments. Please hit like. Please hit subscribe. If you could share it, that'd be cool, too. We always appreciate you guys checking this out, especially this old stuff, man, that we love running back. Nick, thanks as always, brother.
Thank you. Peace, everybody.
All right. Job, guys.
Out.
You smell something, it's us, because we're the stuff.